Okay. What up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican, live again, back on the regular schedule. I gotta find the screen here, though. I'm like struggling. I didn't announce this show, like always. I was a slacker. I got home and I was so busy, man. I didn't get to announce the show. How you been doing, bro? You there? Oh, I'm alone. I'm all alone. I don't know what happened to JW. He was just in here and then he just disappeared. Hold on, I'm trying to fix this in the background side of the game. All right, there it goes. It's fixed. Okay, so, well, I didn't know the brother's gone. Anyway, here I am by myself, which I don't mind. Welcome back. I'm back on my regular schedule. I still got some classes to finish with this crypto mindset course, but I said this week I'm going to get back on my regular thing. I took a week off so that I could focus and concentrate. It was definitely worth the money. I suggest the class. But what I wanted to do today was talk about culture clash. And I think we're seeing, well, I don't think, I know, we're seeing more and more of this in Western Muslims. And it's really a problem. And I've spoken about this before, and the question is, really, excuse me, do Muslims belong in the West? Actually, that's a loaded question. There are Muslims from the West, but then we know there's a lot of Muslims that aren't from the West. We got all the Arabs, the Pakistanis, the Bengalis, the Indians, the this ones, the that ones. And the question is, do they belong here? And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that question, but it's an honest one and it's a real one. And we can look at this from, multiple perspectives. Obviously, the first one being Islamically. And then after that, the secular multicultural effects and knockoff effects from this. And obviously, not obviously, but I'm not speaking from a racist standpoint. I got wives from all over the world. My mom's part Indian, so when it comes down to Southeast Asians and whatnot, it's not like I'm unsympathetic or something, or like I got hatred for them or something. When I speak about Arabs, I have a daughter, she's half Arab, she's half Yemeni. Asian, I have half Asian children. I got half. Yeah, so, I covered SNA. It depends on what the question's about. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It depends on what the question is. It might be one for tomorrow. But anyway, we come back to this question. Do Muslims belong in the West? Do immigrant Muslims belong in the West? And so, being a guy, like I said, who has multiple women who are immigrants, as wives, and had, half immigrant, second generation immigrant children, I've had children with second generation immigrants. It's obvious I don't have any particular hate, but we're looking at situations, and situations where we're seeing like a conflict in terms of like the adaptability or the ability to adapt for a lot of Western Muslims, to fit into the West. And so, is it possible? I wanted to kind of cover that today. Speaking from an Islamic standpoint, I'm not a sheikh, and I don't like to go into great detail on Islamic topics because this is the stuff of the da'is and ulama and the mashaykh. This is the stuff that they cover, and I don't consider myself from any of that. I don't even consider myself, talib al-ilm. But the reality is, we by far. There you go. What up, bro?
What's happening?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. You good? You good, bro? Everything
How
cool?
am I coming through? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
All
so
right.
I'll just make,
Go
ahead.
My work phone that I use for internet died on me, so I had to get in here and plug it in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just discussing, one second. So I was just discussing like basically the introduction, like do Muslims? That's a question for tomorrow, man. Sorry, bro. Yeah, that's one about that's a question for tomorrow. Drop that one tomorrow on the Even Philip show, huh? So I was, I keep on getting hung up on the same point, discussing, as to whether or not certain Muslims, I guess we could say, belong in the West or not, because we have immigrant Muslims, what we call second generation, third generation immigrant Muslims. We got we got the Southeast Asians, we got the Turks, we got the Arabs, we got this one and that one, some of the Africans, all out here in the West. And so I wanted to look at it from both an Islamic and a secular position, in light of like current situations and a lot of situations that we've seen recently, which is it's rare, although it doesn't happen. Yeah, although it's not to say it hasn't happened, it's rare that we see this extreme culture clash that leads to, we'll just call it what it is, an extremist and terrorist act taking place at the hands of like a Muslim who was born and raised in the West as a Westerner, such as myself, is in comparison to like people who came from, immigrant families and their second, third generation, Brits or Americans or whatever else. Because we just had this guy, what's his name? Omar something. He's like some Syrian guy. What's his name?
I think it was Ahmed
Oh, yeah.
Alawi Al-Isa.
Okay, Alawi. Well, that's wow.
Yeah, exactly what I thought when I saw that. I mean, I don't know if that connects his family origins to the extreme Shia sect of Alawites or not. I'm not really sure, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, definitely doesn't sound good. So yeah, and I was just about to go into basically what the most important stance, which is the Islamic stance. I mean, I was just saying I don't like to go into these topics because I'm not a da'i or a talib or a sheikh or anything like this. But the reality is, we know from the Book and the Sunnah that we understand that there is no such thing as like a reverse hijra. That in general, Muslims should stay in Muslim countries unless there are specific reasons to travel to non-Muslim countries
on a temporary basis.
Yes, exactly, on a temporary basis, which means that what was it? It was study.
Yep. Medical.
Medical treatment. Dawah.
Education.
Yeah, education and dawah.
And in business, like a business, type of transaction.
Yeah, business related travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, really, outside of that, there's nothing about like becoming like an economic migrant or anything like this, or becoming a, what is this other thing called? Refugee, like the Syrians, I'm not going to harp on the Syrians, but the reality is Saudi opened their borders to them. They said, hey, you want to come here? We'll give you work visas. That's why Saudi has no registered refugees. Because, yeah. I mean, obviously, diplomats and ambassadors, obviously, because they don't have. They just let the people come in. Yeah, they let the people come in and work and live. So they're not refugees. It's like you can come here and you can stay here. So they don't have refugee status. They actually have actual, residency status when they go to Saudi Arabia. So for me, it didn't make sense.
Yeah. Or what they do with a lot of like the Syrians and the Yemenis and these. So I know what they did with the Syrians when the war kicked off was in Saudi Arabia. They allowed them to come any way they could get here on any type of visa. They basically, once they got here, they were allowed to stay. There was no kicking them out.
Yeah.
So if they had, for example, a brother or a cousin or something like that, they'd get the visa. Even if they came on an Umrah visa, they were allowed to stay. They could stay, right? It was the same. They did something similar with the Yemenis and the Rohingya.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Same. There's a lot of them in Mecca. A lot of Burmawis that live in Mecca. A lot.
I know they made the offer to the Chinese also. Those Chinese, what are they called? Uyghur or something like that?
The Uyghurs?
Yeah, Uyghurs. Yeah, I saw that offer. I saw that Saudi offered that. Anyhow, To me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, just expanding the conversation a little bit more. That a lot of the Syrians, fled to Europe, Germany in specific. There's a lot here. It didn't make sense to me because, like, you can go to a people who know your language, your culture, your mentality, shared values, ethics, religion, instead of going to Germany or Europe where everything is like actually on top of its head and it's completely different to what they're used to.
Yeah, I met some Syrian people that had come to Saudi Arabia, and I asked them. This was back in maybe 2013, 2014, and I asked this exact question to a couple of them on separate occasions, separate people. Like, why are there Syrians? You guys, like, you two came here. Why are these other people? Why are they going to America, to Canada, to Sweden, to Germany, that route? And they said, we came here because we're religious people. This is the obvious place for us to come. You can guess why they went to those countries. Religion isn't at the forefront of their desire, their place within this dunya, within this world.
Yeah.
But from that, I think the next step, the next gear in the conversation is, what is how do they fit in? We know that what they're doing on an Islamic perspective, right? You and I don't have any doubt that what they're doing is incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
But when they get there, are there certain traits that come from, whether it's Muslims, Arab Muslims, I'm not really sure, that make it so that they are perhaps prone to certain situations and events, and more so perhaps even with their children, once a second and third generation people are born in these countries that come from these particular backgrounds.
Yeah.
Is it a cultural thing? Is it a religious thing? Is it an ethnic thing? Is it a combination of it all?
All I can do is comment on like what I see here in Germany. I mean, I don't know if that'll help the conversation or the question, but what I see here is you see two types, and I guess you could say one type is superior to the other. One type is they're just full in the dunya. I see dudes out here doing stuff that's like, because there's no checks and balances but self here, there's no society or culture or law enforcement that enforces like, Sharia-based laws and rules. Mm-hmm. You have a group of people that are just unchecked. Now they've got like, there's nobody, there's no culture, nothing to hold them in line. And so they act accordingly. You see them, drinking, womanizing and all sorts of other stuff. And you have another group that's actually quite, they seem to like come here and they sort of treat it like the Gulf. It's like they came here, they're working, they're stacking cash, and you could tell that they're here, they're not really here. You know what I mean? They're here to work, but they don't want to stay, and you could see it. Like example, on my construction site, there's a all Syrian team. They do the floors, concrete floors. So they lay the concrete down and they do the outside of the building for putzen. I don't know what it's called in English. Like they do the outside finishing of the walls. So it's a concrete team. And it's 100% a Syrian team. They open their own company here in Germany, and it's just only Syrians that work in that company. They're all ostensibly, what I could tell, very religious people. They have the outward signs of religion on them, and they just work like animals. They literally work like animals, and nothing seems to distract them away from their work. They're here for that, and they work like, dude, you show up, they're there. You leave, they're there. So you can tell these are people who don't really have time for the dunya, because they also do very hard work. These guys are literally walking around with chunks of concrete in their beard, on their hair. So this guy's not going to go home, change his clothes, then go out like, pruned up and start chasing women. This guy is here to work, mm-hmm. And you see those two groups. And so, although I would say, arguably, not arguably, obviously, from an Islamic standpoint, they probably shouldn't be here, but they're obviously making use of their time here. in a more constructive and positive way, as opposed to the other group that's just, I don't know what they're doing. They're just hanging out at cafes all day, hanging out with girls, smoking shisha. I don't know what they're doing, and they're making good money doing it. Questionable stuff.
Well, the concern, I think, comes from the Western standpoint is, like, I don't think the West cares, right? If those people, whether they're Syrians or other than Syrians, Turks, Pakistanis, Moroccans, whichever group we want to talk about that has come to the West in a large way, in numbers.
Hmm.
I don't think the West cares if they get involved in those type of things. But what we have seen is some of these kind of types that they come to these places, they get, things don't go for them in the way they want. Things aren't as easy as they thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
They start to feel guilty about some of the fisk, the evil deeds that they get into, and then either a guilt, a religious guilt, a cultural guilt. In the case of some Arabs, I think even kind of an Arab guilt comes onto them. And that causes them to perhaps lash out in ways that cause harm to the society that they came to.
Yeah.
You remember there was the guy, it was a few years ago was it in Marseille or Nice, where he got a truck and he basically drove it down like the promenade. Like he was like from Tunisia or somewhere like that, or Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's situations, I think, where these guys, they get into the system like that, they get chewed up and spit out, and it causes them to lash out. I think that's one particular element that makes us consider, what's causing things like that from those type of people.
Yeah. What's funny is although we've had incidences, and I'm going to deal with some of the comments here, and guys, in a second. Give me a second with the comments. We've seen a few incidences here in Germany, but not many. And I actually, I hate to say it, I hate to bring this up, but 1 second. It's like, what's this camera? There it is. I think one thing that turns into a major factor, unfortunately, as much as people don't want to hear this, it's sexual access. And this goes into what this guy right here said. And this is why I wanted to bring this up. He said, hey, Abu, one question. I think you said in Rollo's interview that white German girls chase the Arabian guys because they're masculine. My question is, how did German men become less masculine? Because I thought they were tough from World War I and World War II. No, it's not off topic, man. So what I've noticed is, and this is true here, Arab guys are the new flavor of the week out here, kind of. Black guys are still in demand, but Arab guys are just new. You know what I mean? Women like to make different experiences, do something different, and just, they are all about excitement and change and something different and new. And Arab guys are basically the new stuff. Plus, they just seem to have a lot of time to hang out on the streets all the time. And so it's like they're always where the girls are somehow. So the thing is, I think if you saw German girls not chasing Arab dudes, in the same way they're not being chased out in America and here and there in the UK or wherever else, you'd see more violent acts in Germany. These guys have they have unheard of, unprecedented levels of sexual access to women in Germany. You'd be amazed at how the girls throw themselves at these dudes out there on the streets. Because what do? They've got Arabs in general, they do have a very macho culture. I think it's a bit superficial in my humble estimation because I've lived with them. You've lived with them also. But that doesn't matter out here. That bluster is what seems to attract the girls, and they do very well. I think if they didn't have that, guys would be more violent. This is my opinion on that part. Because when you look at a lot of these violent guys, they really have very loner type of lives. These guys out here, they're distracted by women. They have no incentive whatsoever to go out and commit violent acts because they're just swimming in hoo-ha out here, man. You know what I mean? And they don't have to do anything for it. So economics, Germany will take care of them. Maybe not well, I mean, it's not like, the land of butter and honey or the land of manna like people like to think it is. They'll pay your rent and they'll give you like some pocket change, which some people are satisfied with. But it won't put you in like a fat ride or anything. It won't put you. Actually, it can, but it depends on your situation. So, I mean, this is my humble opinion. Why we're not seeing violent acts being committed in Germany. As for the United States, man, I don't know what's going on. But we still come back to the problem of, do they belong here? Because when we look now, see, let me. Sorry, I know I'm going on for a minute here. But what we do see in terms of violent acts here with these groups is they have a higher incidence of sexual related crimes in Germany. So they have a lower rate, almost non-existent rate of violent crimes against general population, aka terrorism, in Germany, but they do have a higher crime rate against women in this country. So you see what I'm saying?
And that's just more than likely them just misreading cues, isn't it?
Absolutely. They,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Because there's that whole, oh, she's here, she must be a whore type mentality.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that very black or white Arab way of thinking in terms of women.
Yes.
Oh, she's here with a bunch of guys like this, she's down, and that resistance is all feigning, so she has like plausible deniability to say she wasn't a whore. So bodyguard, if you're asking a question and you
Yeah. I mean,
then you're using language that's not appropriate for that's not appropriate. Try and rephrase it in a better way. So from that position, No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say the other. So the second side of that. So that's the first side of the people who are coming, kind of, is first generation, arriving on the shores themselves after having been born, raised, probably grown up for the most part in an Eastern land, and they come to a Western country, right? The second one that I think is very much a concern, even more so than those ones, are the second generation. And this is something that has been flagged up by Western intelligence services when you look at who were the majority of the people who went to Syria and joined Daesh and joined ISIS. They were typically second generation Arabs coming from France, from Belgium, from Holland, some even into Germany, Pakistanis and a bunch of other different people who were in the UK. And these were the people, Somalis as well. These were the people who ended up going to and joining Daesh. So what was it that made them leave this place that their parents came to, sought benefit from? They were, in some cases, born in these countries and turned their back on it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that comes to the core of this conversation. What's the difference? We did see some Westerners, some, Western-born revert Muslims go to Syria. We had a few, but not even close to what we saw in second-generation immigrant children. What's the difference? There's obviously some sort of what we're seeing is children raised in the West societally, but culturally, in terms of family culture, being raised Islamically. That combination is obviously somewhat fatal.
There's a tension there.
Yeah, there's a problem there. So what is it? And if we look at this, what's the solution? I mean, we know that generally we shouldn't, even me, really, I shouldn't be here, but it's like, we know the whole Hijra conversation, we did a whole series on this, but they have homes, they have families. Some of these people go back and marry, cousins and stuff, and they got entire families that they can go back and visit in their home countries to this day.
Yeah.
So I'm confused as to what the solution is.
So they're at home, right? And they're getting told that our home, our heritage, our ancestral home is fantastic. It's this, it's that.
Yeah.
And Islam is fantastic, and it's this and it's that. And then that child is going out and getting put into the school system and getting, in various ways, getting told how their countries are inferior and how their religion is inferior to, whether it's Britain or Germany or America or whatever it is. There's another tension. And how do they internalize that? How do they deal with that? I think,
by joining ISIS? Well, I was thought that seems to be the answer. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it seems like it's an irrational reaction to whatever their parents raised them upon and whatever the Western society tried to inculcate them with.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a lash out against all of it. You, the parents, you raised me upon this Islamic way that's really not the correct Islamic way, according to them. With these cultural trends and these things that you've put into the religion. I reject that. And then they come and they see the Western society telling them about, the hedonism and the all of these other isms that the society brings them.
Yeah.
And they get to a stage and they realize I'm being left out. Why? Because I'm Muslim, because I'm, from this ethnic background.
You know what? You just clicked something in my head here, and I'm going to drop this before we get into some of the questions here. You know what? It makes perfect sense what you just said. We got people here who are generally, and it's not entirely, but for the large part, are are treated with an extreme degree of hostility from their host countries. The native British, how they treat Muslims, immigrant Muslims who are now citizens. France is a very, very clear case, how they're hostile towards the Muslims. And then at the same time, they go home being socially raised in the West in a liberal society, and their parents are displeased with their behavior because they were raised in a Western liberal society. And so what they're doing is they're coming home and they're facing a degree of conflict because they have to hide what they really are in terms of a person because society is affecting them, the local culture is affecting them, and so they have to hide who they are and what they are and feel ashamed or angry or upset or deal with actual confrontational parents, then go out into the world and face conflict again
and feel ashamed.
Immigrant. And so they face like hostility on two fronts. This might actually be it, man.
And they feel ashamed on both sides. They feel ashamed going home to their parents with this Western culture and hedonism and all these type of things. And likewise, they feel ashamed going outside and dealing with the Western society from the cultural / religious aspects that have been inculcated them at home.
Yep.
So they're completely confused. And the thing that, just to clear it back up, what sparked this conversation, I think, is what happened in Colorado recently with the Syrian American guy, right? Seems like he's a nutter or whatever. But where this takes it is we see that there's kind of patterns that are coming about here with this, that it's pretty clear.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that nailed it, though. So Bodyguard says, Abuamerican, black-pilled incel showed stats. I don't know what that part means. Most white girls want white males, blonde and blue eyes. But then you're saying they're chasing Arabs. The truth must lie in the middle. This is an easy question to answer.
Yeah, that's
Bodyguard.
Yeah, that's
this is you need to just read Rational Male, book 1. Women in their what's it called? Proliferate years, they will go for alphas. They're just gonna bang any and everything. But when it's time to settle down, they're gonna settle down with a local guy. So they'll screw anybody at an early age. So let's say from their early reproductive years, and in Germany, I mean, they're just going like animals from like maybe 13 up until about like 22, 23. And then from like 24 and up, they will look for a German to marry. But up until that 23 years of age, they'll let anybody lay pipe on them, bro. That's an easy one.
It was. I remember it very clearly. I spent a lot of my formative years in Germany, both as non-Muslim and Muslim, and it was incredible to see. I mean, I kid you not, dudes that could have been stunt doubles for Steve Urkel pulling 9 and 10 German girls.
Yep. It's
Nines
crazy.
and
Yeah.
tens, right? And then you'd
Yep.
have just because he was Black American. You'd have a white dude who maybe was, who could have been an Abercrombie and Fitch model.
Yeah.
Most white German girls, they weren't interested in him.
Yeah.
They weren't. And it was a
Not
joke we had. We had to go to Switzerland or France or different countries like this to get any play.
Yeah, I was killing it in Germany back in my non-Muslim days. It's crazy. Ask Faisal says, I'm American. Are you originally from the U.S.? Kind of. Where should you do Hijra if you and your ancestors have lived in the U.S. for centuries? Well, that's a whole conversation that I don't know how to answer myself. Not too many places make it easy for us to make Hijra. That's just the reality. People, they'll welcome you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go
they'll
ahead.
welcome
Keep going.
And your money, if you have large sums of money, there's lots of places you can go. But in terms of like, and we're talking like, Andrew Tate money, where you show up and it's like, I'm going to buy that 3 million, apartment villa place, 5 million apartment villa place. They're going to love you. They're going to want you. You can go almost anywhere in the world. But if you're like, the average guy, and you're doing well, but you're not like, bling, bling rich, it's going to be a bit tough, man. It's a hard call. What were you going to say, bro?
I mean, when it comes to people like yourself and people like me, in terms of making Hijra, you got to understand something, first of all, and I think maybe we covered this in some of the Hijra episodes we did. The reward for Hijra is tremendous, Islamically. It's tremendous. So whenever there's something like that has this tremendous award, there's usually a lot of conditions that are applied to it. So now when you're asking about Hijra and where should you go, we're talking about Hijra specifically. Let's not just talk about moving to a country. No. There are conditions in Sharut that go with a legislated Islamic Hijra. For example, you're not allowed to return back to the country where you made Hijra from.
Indeed.
Except the scholars say for about 3 days maximum. So there are certain things that go along with that most people, in my experience, they don't know. They don't have a clue. So now if you're talking about making Hijra, now there's certain aspects that go along with that because there's a legislated reward that is tremendous. If you're talking about, though, who's this, Abu Future we're talking to? If we're talking about...
Faisal, ask Faisal.
Okay,
ask the question.
Faisal. So Faisal, if we're talking about you just going you don't have like a traditional Muslim background in terms of, going back generations, your family are non-Muslim. So now you need to start looking at where is it favorable for you to go based off of your personality and where you're going to be able to succeed and thrive. But to like leave and I'm making Hijra, man, be careful with that.
Yeah. I've said this to people for a while and I stopped saying it because people don't want to hear that. And the basic reality is a lot of people say I made Hijra. And they made Hijra in the same way that people say, I just made Salah, but they never had wudu. You didn't meet the conditions of Salah because you didn't have wudu. You don't meet the conditions of Hijra because you don't meet the conditions of Hijra. You're not in Hijra. You see what I'm saying? Because there's conditions. And so a lot of people don't seem to understand that. It's a big issue.
Yeah.
Special says, honestly, Abu, they are just taking advantage of the German wealth, but their loyalty will always be towards Turkey, Syria, Iraq, etc. I just talked about this today. I actually posted a video. It'll be uploaded, I think, the first week of next month. Guys, I record so many videos that they're scheduled. You should see my content creator list. It's like full of videos that are scheduled. So a video will come out every day, inshallah. That's why a video comes out every day, because I make like 4 or 5 videos in one day, and I'll post them and I'll schedule them to be like a day apart. But on that video today, I was talking about loyalty, and it was actually triggered by what's his name, Andrew Tate. But let's talk about this now. I probably talked about this before you came on the show. There are 2 types that I see here. There's the type that work hard, and there's the type that just seem to like have money magically, in the proper understanding of the Aqidah. They just seem to like have money. I don't know what they're doing, but I can tell you the German government doesn't give these guys as much money. So, but it's obvious they're not working either. And so, like I said, there was a Syrian crew that I work with, and these guys, they're just straight animals, man. They're not even human, I think. I think they're like robots. These guys just work like dogs. But you can tell, and I said this, that they are working in a way that is clear they are not staying here. They're looking to stack a lot of cash, and they're looking to get out of here. And I think that's totally fine. You know, I think that's acceptable. They pay their taxes. You know, they're taking wealth, but at the same time, you know, they're contributing to the system. Then you have those other guys that are less so. But even for you, Pro Special, and I take your German because of the flag, you should contemplate and rethink about loyalty in general on a national standpoint and basis. And this is in my video that'll be coming out. The reality is, coronavirus, and we don't want to go too far off topic. Coronavirus has shown us that these states, they'll keep us in continual and perpetual lockdown with crazy regulations and rules that don't make any sense, simply because they have now received power and they are not willing to give it up. And so they just keep throwing stuff at us so that they can just keep practicing extreme power. There's no loyalty in what they're doing to us. They've shut down countries entirely, closed down businesses. They're just wrecking the entire national economy and individuals and businesses, you know, because when a business goes out of business, individuals on a personal level go out of business. There's no loyalty on their behalf towards us. And so your loyalty is to you and your family and your people. Make your money and be ready to pop up and move out whenever you have to, wherever you can, in order to actually be a free human being. Because now, have you seen what they're doing in Saarland? They open up Saarland and they're just giving us rules. You got to have PCR test in order to gain access into stores and gyms and whatever else. So you're supposed to do a PCR test every 2 days. These people are just making us jump through hoops because they can. So loyalty is no longer something that our nation showed to us. So I don't think we should show loyalty to them. Stack your cash and be ready to make a move. And so I can't blame these people for not being loyal, because a lot of times they come from nations and states where there's dictators. And I'm not going to talk bad about the Muslim rules. It's something that's not permissible. But in general, it makes sense that these people are very tribal because their rulers are interested a lot of times in their rule. And a lot of the ulama have said that. Stay out of politics and you can live in these countries peacefully. Stay out of the ruler's realm. Don't mess with his power and you'll be happy. And that's true. But, you know, sometimes you come from a tribe and they're not liked by that ruler, you know. And so that these people, they have their way of where they, you know, they're very tribal and protect their interests and very loyal to their people. I think you should be the same way now also. So I wouldn't put blame on them for that. They seem to have been ahead of.
I'd like to push back on it because
okay.
I don't disagree, Pro Special, with what you said, that's what they're doing. But at the same time, let's not pretend like the German government didn't invite these people into Germany for a reason that was, you know, altruistic, right? I mean, I hope you don't believe that, do you?
Yeah, that's another thing. That's true. That was wrong. Yeah, that's another thing. There's some feedback there. Is that my side or yours? Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay. No, it's your side. So I'm gonna mute you real quick so that I can say this. Yeah, that's another point that JW is bringing up that's very correct. That they didn't let all these Syrians and refugees into Germany for altruistic reasons. Don't believe that either. Germany has a population problem, and the problem is that Germans just aren't having enough kids. They let all these people in to try and shore up the population. Let's just be honest also. I mean, there was a calculated risk that they took. It didn't go as well as they thought they would, and that's why they put the brakes on it. They let in a lot of people, and they were trying to shore up like German numbers. And the problem is that when you look statistically, immigrants that come into the German nation, they start to emulate child population and child birth rates of the local people. And so all you did was you brought in a bunch of people that aren't going to reproduce. So yeah. 1 second, let me check if JW's mic is feedback still. Yeah, still feedbacking. You there, bro?
You there, bro?
I can hear me, but I can barely hear you.
I can hear me, but I can barely hear you.
So Shaz Baig says the children are mentally weak and weak in their hearts to let them discriminate, to let discrimination get to them. Their parents were also ignorant not to raise them to know where they are at. Yeah, that's very true. And I say this all the time, and a lot of people don't like to hear it. We are, whether people like to accept it or not, we are in a white patriarchy. The entire West, there's not a single Western nation that's worth its weight in salt that's not a white patriarchy. And you should know that. You know, it doesn't mean you should feel lesser or feel, like you're less of a human being than someone else, but that's just the reality. It's just like a family business. If you open up a family business, you didn't open it up for the next door neighbor's kids. You opened it up for your kids. And so really, that's how these nations are run.
How's the sound now?
Yeah, that's good, man. You sound good, and there's no feedback anymore. Okay, so Ask Faisal says something interesting here. He says, I have a poli-science background. I've studied these youth. They have the feeling of not belonging in the West, and they have no country to make Hijra to. Thus, Daesh create a state. You want to go first?
Why don't they have a country to make Hijra to?
I just want to ask that too.
If he's a Moroccan Belgian, right? What's to stop him from going back to Morocco? I genuinely don't. I mean, he may not like it. Okay.
Yeah. I know a Moroccan brother in London. He bought a house in Morocco. He lives in London right now, but he has a house in Morocco. He has family there. I haven't met a single Pakistani or Bangladeshi brother that doesn't visit Pakistan or Bangladesh and can't tell you like 10 family members back there. Not one. Not one. So they have places to go.
I mean, it seems to be, bro. There's a lot of, and I'm not hitting this to Faisal directly, but there seems to be a lot of hand wringing and excuse making when it comes to this subject.
Well, it directly affects a lot of people, unfortunately, and so it's personal, Farasu with the $5 super chat. Thanks, bro. Good looking out. He says, "Yep, Germany has a population problem. Maybe if they wasn't doing fornication or aborting their kids, they wouldn't have this issue." Absolutely. Birth control.
Don't forget the gays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Birth control has been we definitely demonetized. The Faisal made up, Farasu made up for it. Definitely for sure, bro. They have a population problem. Universal, what's it called? Birth control, free birth control for like the West has been a nightmare in general for the West. And they now what are they doing? They're just aborting kids like crazy to top it off, So yeah, now you find that women are not only like having unprotected sex, they're using abortion as birth control. And so yeah, it's kind of hard to raise a population and increase population with a mentality and behavior like that. Traditionalism obviously has its benefits. Thanks for the super chat, bro. There was something else I wanted to cover right here. Good job, pro special man. Look out for yourself, man. On my on my Twitter, there's quite a few Germans who live in like Thailand and East Asian countries because they just feel freer. They're smart, they're entrepreneurs, and I think that entrepreneurship here in Germany is punished as opposed to actually being supported. The IHK, they try their best, but man, yeah. And may Allah bless and protect you too. Barakallahu feek. Yeah, this goes back to that point that JW triggered in my head. He says, but there's an outright hostility towards us, meaning Germans, from many Muslim communities. I've been around Turkish guys all my life, and it's unbelievable how they talk about us. This is a coping mechanism, bro.
Yep.
They face societal hostility, then familial hostility. What does he have? He has that fight or flight, and he has nowhere to go. And so he responds with hostility. I'm not excusing it. but he's just like, yo,
From
I'm
the
like,
dynamic of power, it makes sense.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, very good. Yeah, so they're just responding in the way, in the only way that they're left with. You know, when I face hostility, you'd be surprised on a construction site how people play games. You don't want to play social and mental games with me because I'm the big, huge black guy, you know, on the job site. And I just come with the American direct confrontational way. And so they like, oh, what the heck? And so it might be something like that. So I walk around a lot of times with a really mean look on my face because I don't want guys to try and get comfortable with me and use it as a way to try and come in and attack me. I got a guy, he's an electrician. He's like that. I've played friendly with him. He played cool. And then the first opportunity he got, what did he do? He started trying to yell at me and like act like he was like, you know, some sort of power dude. I just cussed him out. This was like just yesterday. I just cussed him out. I was like, hey, look, man, you need to chill. I like you, but I'll smack you up in here. He was just like, we're cool again, but it's just like, you know, people play those games. And so if you grow up in an environment like that, and you got to imagine, I can pick this up now. I knew that was coming. I actually saw it coming with this guy. I've dealt with this so many times since being in Germany this last 5 years that I now detect the pattern. So imagine growing up here in the local, community, and what he's probably experienced that you haven't, you know, seen him go through. And I'm not excusing it, but it tends to be that you lean towards overreaction, you know, and early like prevention as opposed to, you know, waiting around and looking like a mug later on thinking, man, I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have said that. You know what I mean? It happens. I'm not saying it's okay. Uh-oh, here we go. The Muslim man. What you talking about here, bro? Hijra goes both ways. People make hijra to the West all the time. Stop with the excuses. Also, Muslims are only limiting hijra to the Gulf states, Mecca and Medina. Listen, man,
Who told you that?
You can't make hijra to non-Muslim countries. That's not, bro. Be careful, man. Intebeh. Because hijra is an act of ibadah. So now what you're doing is you're claiming that an act of ibadah, something that's a part of worship, is that you can make hijra to a non-Muslim country. Think about what you're saying here, bro. Maybe you want to research and retract that statement. Because now, if you believe this could turn into like a statement of kufr. This could be a statement of disbelief if you're actually Muslim. Listen to me, people, there's no hijra to non-Muslim countries from a Muslim country.
There's a permanent sense. Yeah, in a permanent sense. The hijra to Abyssinia, that wasn't intended to be a permanent thing.
Exactly.
That was a temporary thing. They went and they came back. And on top of that, you could say that was something perhaps that was even specific. That was something specific to those people at the time, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Yeah, because it was never mandated for that to happen again. It's to those people at that time in that situation. Dude, and Tebe, be careful, man. You're talking about matters of religion.
Yeah, and to say that, what kind of people are you talking to that only limit hijra to the Gulf states, Mecca and Medina? I know people that have made hijra all the way from Indonesia to Morocco, my man, all the way down to, you know, Sudan to Turkey. You know, whether, you know, in their mind, whether it's a true legislated hijra, that's different. So I don't know what kind. You need to find friends to hang out with, my man.
Yeah, you need to study, bro. No, I didn't miss the point, bro. There is no such thing as economic hijra. You weren't here for the beginning of the show. We covered the different types of hijra there is, Muslim man. We covered this earlier on. There's very specific in the Sharia reasons why a Muslim can leave a Muslim country and move to a non-Muslim one on a temporary basis, and economics is not one of them. This was not given as a Shari'i legislated reason.
And if so, produce your evidence. Give us one scholar
we
from
need the
Sunnah in the evidence that they derived that ruling from. We'll wait.
Yeah, we're here, man. Drop it. I grew up in the U.S., went to college in Pakistan, served want to go to Pakistan. All right, let's see what brother here got to this. Shaz Beg says, I grew up in the U.S., went to college in Pakistan, served in the United States Marine Corps. But sometimes I want to go live in Pakistan, up north in the mountains, develop a community there. Bro, do it, man. Why not? Bro, I'm still trying to, I'm looking at Turkey, I'm looking at Malaysia. I want to just go move with my people. And so I mean, if you could do it, man, then do it, bro. All right, Muslim man, maybe I'm misunderstanding your whole message, but I mean, you're saying you can make Hijra both ways. It's like, bro, that sounds a bit crazy, man. You can't do that, man.
Yeah,
so,
go.
The wording is
think
really bad.
You need to bring bring what you understand Hijra to be.
Yeah. Then your wording's bad, bro. I don't want to come down hard on you, but it's like you got to remember, we also got an audience here, and this is going to be up forever, inshallah. And so we have to be very hard and very clear on this particular points, because I don't want anybody coming along here 2 years later watching this and it being misguided. You know what I'm saying, bro? So inshallah, clarity is important here. Pro special. I'm looking to get out of here ASAP. Dubai or Abu Dhabi? Abu Dhabi is the joint, bro. Go to Abu Dhabi, man. Forget Dubai. Europe has done a Western democracy as well. I agree. Abu Dhabi is the joint, bro. I love Abu Dhabi. Oh, it's amazing. I don't like Dubai. Too bling bling. Yeah. I don't want to get into it. Let me just not say it. Pro special, man. Join my community. You can accept Islam today. Don't wait, man. You might go outside, get hit by a cookie truck. And I know it don't sound nice, but we Muslims say, and it's true, you die in that condition, bro. You die non-Muslim, man. It ain't looking good in the hereafter, bro. Hit me up, man. Hit me up. He says, I've honestly concluded at this point that you need to convert to Islam, marry a Muslim woman to have a functional family. And I agree with you. It's true. It's not like it's not a silver bullet, but you could definitely get that, bro. You can
your probability, the probability of it is increased tremendously.
Yeah, significantly higher.
Yeah, it's not bulletproof, but with Abuamerican's vetting guide and some other situations, some other things, you'll be able to get yourself in a very good situation.
Okay, here we go. Muslim man is making. All right, this is a little bit clearer. So first off, let's go with definition. So first he's giving his definition. He says Hijra is often used to mean migration in some Arabic communities, not from the religious sense. Okay, well for me and what I understand of the term Hijra, it is definitely a Shar'i term. It's a Shar'i word, and so it has those stipulations from the Sharia connected to it. And so that's why we're having a disconnect in terms of the communication of the idea here. So let's just use the English word of migration as opposed to.
Yeah, I mean, look, when someone in Cairo is moving to Alexandria, he doesn't say he's making Hijra, right? That's it. So I mean, to say that it's used like to is a migration, is a move. I don't know, man. To say, like he's moving from Cairo to Beirut, he's gonna, is that a Hijra? I mean, that's curious.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So yeah, we are disconnecting on terminology here. That's for sure. The wealthy, more prosperous destination, and there are other places to make Hijra to. Yeah, but okay, so he goes on to say, as for the Gulf, we tend to favor the wealthier and more prosperous destinations, and there are other places to make Hijra to. Yeah, I hear you, but again, this comes back into what is the outcomes for you and your family. Again, we're seeing a lot of Muslim youth from second, third generation immigrant families out committing terrorist acts, and this is probably because, like we were talking with Pro Special with, they are just in a hostile environment. They're facing hostilities for Western ideas and culture at home. And then they're going out into the West and they're not welcomed or loved as a local, despite having local passports and mentalities and language. And so what do? They go find somewhere like, oh, look, it's heaven on earth over here with ISIS, and they get all glittery, glitter eyes from, being ignorant of the religion. And they run over there and do dumb stuff.
Some cases after they've chased alcohol and drugs, and then they're going to these places trying to get themselves in this utopia on earth that will remove that temptation from them.
Yeah, looking for redemption also.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a big thing. Albert Future Trunks asked the question, why do some brothers marry into different cultures knowing full well there'll be a clash and knowing some family members are racist?
Because that's half the fun.
Man, you want that woman, bro. It is what it is, man. You ain't never gonna stop that. That woman wants you, you want her. You what do you have in terms of options? And some people,
I don't know if I should. I'm gonna end up fighting with a racist uncle. I don't know if I should marry her.
yeah, dudes want to get married, and for whatever reason, they're involved with this girl already. If they just think about this out future trunks. If a girl and a guy are willing to face racist family members, they've already, and to some degree, we're not going to say that they've committed zina, but to some degree, they already have a haram relationship going, to where there's an emotional attachment already. So now you're saying, like, just give up that girl. He done fallen in love with her. She's falling in love with him. They're willing. Because she obviously is willing to go into that conflict also. So she obviously has some sort of feelings for him. This is why you shouldn't get involved with sisters, and that whole thing where they want to like get to know you and, the Cinderella complex. This is why you shouldn't do this anyway. Because then they end up like they're attached to each other and they're hooked on each other. It becomes a love, lust / whatever relationship. And they're willing to do whatever to be together.
Romeo Juliet, West Side Story, man. It's an old
there you go,
story.
Man. The dangers of these these lovey-dovey haram relationships, man. And nobody should misconstrue that despite I have a vetting guide and I say, using matrimonial apps or whatever else, there's under no circumstances do I support that type of behavior. You cut that stuff down to the short, to the chase, and the easy, like the quick and the simple. Is her religion half decent? Is she willing to get married? Talk to that Wali. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. What are y'all doing? You can get to know her after you get married. Yeah. Yep. Bro, I grew up in this culture. I know how powerful Western culture is. I've been to 46 countries, bro. 47 countries in my life. Trust me, I know how powerful Western. Sorry, let me get into the question or the statement. You need to understand how that Western culture and materialism is becoming global now. It has reached Muslim countries also. Yeah, I know how powerful it is. I've traveled probably more than most of the people in this live combined. 47 countries. JW probably similar. We've traveled to a lot of countries together, he and I, and so we know. We grew up in this stuff. We know how powerful it is, bro.
And at the same time, we understand how powerful Islamic culture is, how powerful Arab culture is an example. How powerful Pakistani culture is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so let's not act like it's a one-way street.
Yep. Because I know a lot of brothers, it's like, you can talk to them like on chat, not see their face, and I can tell you this dude's Southeast Asian. That culture is powerful. So, and you also got to see it from an Islamic standpoint. What did the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, say? He says the Muslims will follow the non-Muslims, handspan by handspan, consumerism, all this type of behavior. This is just a hadith coming true in a different aspect that you maybe not thought of. Knowledge Seeker says, Assalamu alaikum, brothers. What's your opinions on moving to Morocco and Algeria? They got some pretty girls over there. You want to make Hijra for the girls? MashaAllah. And I like the idea of living in a Riyadh.
Riyadh, yeah, it's like the Moroccan style house that has the courtyard in the middle. So yeah, you got to remember, man, that hadith about, I think it's the first hadith in Bukhari that talks about the intention. Whoever makes Hijra, whoever makes Hijra, he's rewarded for that. Whoever makes Hijra for the sake of a woman, then that's his reward.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you want to chase up them, them North African girls,
they
got it going on.
They really do. North African girls fire, mashallah. And they
is a good option in terms of, I'm assuming, if, for example, if Knowledge Seeker, if you have like a Western passport, because getting into Algeria is really difficult. Getting into Morocco is the exact opposite. And in terms of buying property, opening businesses, all that type of stuff, Morocco is probably the best Arab country. And I may be mistaken on that, but I think I'm not.
As Faisal said, the Prophet ﷺ made Hijra to Mecca from Medina between two different cities on the Arabian Peninsula. So why shouldn't it be considered or counted as Hijra if you go from one hostile city to another? Because there was no Muslim nations at the time. They were like a Muslim group, they didn't have an entire nation.
Yeah. No, it's a kind of argument. That's a good line of argument that he's come with. I would say that when he went to Medina, And I could be mistaken on this. I believe that when he left a non-Muslim land, and when he went to Medina, it was already agreed. The agreements had already been done. That when he came to Medina, he was going to be the leader of that Muslim dola, of that Muslim state. I might be mistaken on that, but I think that is the difference, brother.
I be getting some wild questions, man. What the heck? What's this, man? What race wins? He's talking about women in London, UK. Thanks for reading my question. You want me to start rating sisters, huh? Based on ethnicity?
Oh, there's the hour mark, brother.
Go to London and look, bro. There's a specific demographic that's gonna stand out. I ain't gonna sit on here and like start rating sisters off ethnicity, man. I ain't gonna do that, bro.
Yeah, I mean it's so subjective, man. Come on.
Yeah, it really is. We coming up on an hour here. I'm just trying to go through those questions we had, man. Dudes like firing them off left and right, man. Sam, man, your question for tomorrow. That's something for the Even Phillips show. Any Muslim land better to live in than living in non-Muslim one? I mean, however, there's areas like Dubai and Kuala Lumpur. Which one should ideally avoid for Hijra?
Ooh, that's a weird way to look at it in terms of what should I avoid. I mean, yeah. Why the dichotomy? Why? I mean, is it just between those two? You know, like Allah made, like that ayat in the Quran where, it says the angels will ask the people, why didn't they migrate? And, Allah's earth is wide.
One thing I can say that I know that I've heard from personal experience from a lot of people, Malaysia in general tends to lean towards Sufia.
Yeah.
And you find the Gulf tends to lean towards more like, just general old, Sunni Islam. You'll find all sorts there, but the vast majority of the people, unless you go to some specific masjids, they tend to just be like regular old Sunni Muslims. And if you speak just, to them, they'll have basic understandings of Aqeedah and Manhaj that's pretty sound.
A lot of this, bro, it's so complex that it's like,
yeah.
Like this, we would have to sit down with you. What is it, brother? Sharia Defense Enforcement would have to sit down with you and like get your goals, get your background, your profession, all of these type of things to kind of like narrow down what would be the right fit for you.
Yeah.
It's tough to do. Like, which is worse. It's funny that you didn't ask which is better.
Yeah. That's a question for tomorrow. Beta male strategies. Even then, your question is still a question for tomorrow. Even Phillips show. That's a question for tomorrow. Inshallah. Go ahead and read this one, and we're gonna try and shut it down here. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother, love your content, man. I hope you make a discussion about building discipline. We can do that, man. We can do a show. Just come on the show, man. Just, you don't have to come on the show, but like even Philip tomorrow, man. Something like that, Or we could do one like next week. We could do this show here next week about building confidence. I mean, that's something we could do, or discipline. Excuse me. Guys, it's been an hour. My family's trapped up in a room back there, so I got to give them their rights, let them be free. JW's turning late out where he's at in his side of the world, so we're gonna call this a night. Barakallah, trip over my tongue. Barakallahu feek for tuning in. Bro, you want to drop something? You got anything?
No, sure.
Okay. Well,
been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Been a pleasure. So, conclusion, it's tough being an immigrant child out here.
Second generation, man. Second generation Muslim. So,
it's tough.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Guys, those other questions that you have, movies for free and whatnot, tomorrow, Even Phillips show. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We are out.
Over.